What if I told you one man's thoughts were so powerful, they bent time itself? Albert Einstein. The name alone brings to mind a wild head of hair, a knowing smile, and a brain that seemed to operate on a different frequency than the rest of us. But behind the iconic face lies a story most people never hear, a story of struggle, rebellion, curiosity, and a relentless quest to understand the very fabric of reality. Einstein wasn't always seen as a genius. In fact, as a child, he was slow to speak and considered a failure by his teachers. Yet somewhere between rejection and curiosity, something ignited a spark that would one day set the world of physics on fire. His ideas didn't just change science, they rewrote it entirely. They challenged everything we thought we knew about space, time, energy, and even reality itself. This is not just a story about formulas or theories. It's the story of a man who dared to ask the questions others were too afraid to voice. A man who refused to follow the rules, not out of arrogance, but out of an unshakable belief that truth is bigger than tradition. His theories, like relativity and E=mc, weren't just scientific equations. They were windows into a universe far more mysterious and elegant than we had ever imagined. In this video, we'll explore the life, mind, and discoveries of Albert Einstein. Not just the genius, but the human behind the myth. Because to understand Einstein is to understand not just how science works, but how greatness is born in the most unlikely places. He didn't speak fluently until he was 4, and his teachers thought he'd never succeed. It's hard to believe, but the man who would become the face of genius started life being seen as anything but. Albert Einstein was born on March 14, 1879, in Uma, a small town in the Kingdom of Württemberg, Germany. From the very beginning, Albert didn't fit the mold. His parents were even worried that something was wrong. He spoke very late, and when he did, he often repeated words to himself in a soft, strange rhythm. His teachers weren't impressed either. They considered him slow, distracted, and even mentally handicapped. One famously said, "He will never amount to much." But what they didn't understand was that Albert wasn't slow, he was simply thinking deeper than most could imagine. His mind wasn't interested in memorizing facts. It was curious about how things worked, what lay behind the visible world. One of the first sparks came when his father showed him a simple compass. Young Albert was fascinated. Why did the needle move even when nothing touched it? What invisible force was at play? That mystery haunted and intrigued him. It planted the first seed of his lifelong quest to understand the unseen. Einstein's family faced constant financial instability. His father's electrical business failed, and they were forced to move several times from UML to Munich, then to Italy. Amid these changes, Albert often felt out of place. German schools were rigid and authoritarian, expecting obedience and memorization. But Einstein was a rebel, even as a boy. He despised rote learning and refused to follow the crowd. His refusal to conform often led to punishment and isolation. At just 15, Albert left school without a diploma and joined his family in Milan. But this dropout didn't give up. Instead, he applied to the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich. Though he failed the general entrance exam, his scores in math and physics were so impressive that he was admitted the following year after completing prep school. In Zurich, he finally found something he had always craved: freedom to think. It was here that his mind began to blossom, fueled by philosophy, mathematics, and long solitary walks. He would often say later that imagination was more important than knowledge, and this belief was already taking root. Even in his early years, Einstein showed that brilliance doesn't always look like success. He wasn't a top student, he wasn't a model child, but he was something far more powerful: curious. And in the world of discovery, curiosity is the first spark of genius. Einstein's biggest breakthrough: refusing to memorize facts. Most students chase grades. Albert Einstein chased ideas. At the Swiss Federal Polytechnic in Zurich, he wasn't the most disciplined student, but he was one of the most curious. He often skipped classes, preferring to study the works of scientists like James Clerk Maxwell on his own. Instead of memorizing answers, Einstein questioned everything, especially the answers that everyone else accepted as fact. He clashed with professors who disliked his independent thinking. He wasn't afraid to challenge authority, and that made him unpopular with faculty. His rebellious attitude meant he didn't secure a teaching job after graduation, a major setback for someone trying to enter the academic world. But Einstein wasn't discouraged. He was driven by something deeper than career ambition: a hunger to understand the universe. During this time, he formed deep connections with a few fellow thinkers. One of the most significant was Mileva Maric, a fellow student and one of the few women studying physics at the time. Their intellectual bond quickly turned into a romantic relationship, and eventually, marriage. Though their relationship would later become strained and end in divorce, Mileva was part of Einstein's formative years, both emotionally and academically. Out of financial necessity, Einstein took a job at the Swiss Patent Office in Bern in 1902. It was far from glamorous. His job was to review technical drawings and applications, but this seemingly ordinary role gave him something extraordinary: time to think. With the pressure of academia off his back, Einstein was free to explore the mysteries of physics on his own terms. Each day after work, he would retreat to his notebooks and calculations, pondering space, light, and motion. He joined a small group of intellectuals known as the Olympia Academy, where they discussed philosophy and science in late into the night. It was here in the quiet hours outside his day job that Einstein's mind began to stir with revolutionary ideas that would soon shake the very foundations of science. While the world saw him as a nobody in a clerical job, inside that patent office was a man quietly reshaping reality. Imagine publishing 4 papers in 1 year and each one rewrote the laws of the universe. Most scientists are lucky to make one major discovery in their lifetime. In 1905, Albert Einstein made 4 in a single year. Today it's known as his Annus Mirabilis, or Miracle Year. But at the time, Einstein was still working as a clerk at the Swiss patent office. No lab, no research grants, just a second-hand desk, a fountain pen, and a head full of wild questions. Let's break down the 4 papers that changed everything. First, the photoelectric effect. Einstein proposed that light wasn't just a wave, it also came in tiny packets called quanta, or photons. This idea explained why light hitting a metal surface could knock off electrons, something classical physics couldn't account for. It was the birth of quantum theory. Ironically, this paper on relativity is what earned him the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1921. Next, Brownian motion. Einstein tackled a mystery that had puzzled scientists for decades: the random movement of tiny particles suspended in liquid. By applying statistical mechanics, he provided mathematical proof that atoms and molecules then still debated really existed. This helped silence skeptics of atomic theory once and for all. Then came the special theory of relativity, a theory so bold it defied everything Newtonian physics had taught. Space and time are not absolute, they're relative depending on how fast you're moving. He showed that the laws of physics are the same for all non-accelerating observers, and that the speed of light is constant no matter the motion of the observer. This flipped our understanding of the universe on its head. Finally, mass-energy equivalence, E equals mc. This deceptively simple equation means that energy and mass are interchangeable. A small amount of matter can produce an enormous amount of energy, something the world would later witness in both nuclear power and atomic bombs. What makes this year even more extraordinary is that Einstein did it all in isolation. He had no university support, no scientific mentors guiding him. He wasn't even employed as a physicist. He was just a man who couldn't stop thinking, couldn't stop questioning, and wouldn't wait for permission to revolutionize physics. These 4 papers weren't just academic breakthroughs. They shattered the boundaries of classical science and laid the foundation for modern physics. From GPS satellites to solar panels to the understanding of the cosmos, their impact is everywhere today. In 1 year, Einstein went from a patent office clerk to a revolutionary mind. But the world didn't catch on immediately. Recognition came slowly, but it came. And once it did, it turned Einstein into a global icon. He became famous for his brain but was hunted for his beliefs. After 1905, it took some time for the scientific community to catch up to Einstein's genius, but by 1919, everything changed. During a solar eclipse that year, British astronomer Arthur Eddington confirmed Einstein's prediction: light from stars bent as it passed near the sun. Just as Einstein's general theory of relativity had suggested, the news spread like wildfire. For the first time, the world wasn't just talking about Einstein in labs, they were talking about him in newspapers. He became an international celebrity overnight. Reporters followed him, crowds gathered to see him. His wild hair, kind smile, and soft-spoken wisdom made him a media icon. But fame came with pressure and danger. Einstein wasn't interested in politics at first, but the rise of Nazism in Germany changed everything. As a Jew, pacifist, and outspoken intellectual, he became a target. Right-wing extremists publicly denounced him. His theories were mocked as Jewish physics, and in 1933, the Nazis raided his home in Berlin. Einstein was abroad at the time and knew he could never return safely. He settled in the United States, accepting a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. But even in exile, he didn't stay silent. He warned the world about Hitler's growing power. He denounced racism in America, supported civil rights, and spoke out for the oppressed, no matter where they lived. Ironically, while he was a lifelong pacifist, Einstein's work indirectly led to the creation of the atomic bomb. In 1939, he signed a letter to President Roosevelt Triton by physicist Leo Szilard urging the US to begin atomic research. Fearing Nazi Germany would build the bomb first, Einstein would later say it was one of his greatest regrets. Through it all, he remained true to his beliefs: freedom of thought, justice, and peace. He didn't chase fame, but he used it to speak for those who couldn't. Einstein wasn't just a scientist, he was a symbol of resistance, of truth, of the power of ideas in a troubled world. Einstein didn't just change science, he changed how we think about thinking. By the time Albert Einstein settled into his new life in Princeton, New Jersey, he was more than just a scientist, he had become a living legend. But Einstein never seemed interested in celebrity. He declined prestigious positions, turned down political office, and kept working quietly on what he called the ultimate puzzle: the unified field theory, an attempt to bring together gravity, electromagnetism, and quantum mechanics into one elegant equation. It was a quest that would consume his later years, but one he never completed. Einstein spent his days walking to his office at the Institute for Advanced Study, scribbling equations in a small notebook and occasionally chatting with young students who dared to approach him. He refused to wear socks, often forgot his appointments, and reportedly used a boat he couldn't swim from because, as he said, "It makes me careful." But behind the quirks was a deep thinker with an even deeper conscience. Einstein was one of the few prominent voices of his time to speak out boldly against racism in the US. He called segregation a disease of white people and was an early supporter of civil rights efforts. He befriended African-American scholar W.E.B. Du Bois and publicly supported black students at Princeton when few others would. He also championed Zionism, though not without criticism. He wanted a peaceful, pluralistic Jewish homeland, but remained cautious about nationalism of any kind. When offered the presidency of Israel in 1952, he politely declined, saying he lacked the political skill required. Perhaps one of his most defining traits was his discomfort with the military uses of science. Though he helped raise the alarm that led to the Manhattan Project, he was deeply disturbed by the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. For the rest of his life, he advocated for nuclear disarmament and world peace. Einstein passed away on April 18, 1955. Even in death, he sparked controversy. His brain was removed for study without his family's permission. Scientists hoped to find the secret to his genius in the folds of his brain, but what they discovered was something simpler. His brain wasn't physically extraordinary. His thoughts were. His legacy is almost impossible to summarize. His theories continue to shape modern physics, from the way GPS satellites work to our understanding of black holes and the expanding universe. His face is printed on posters, t-shirts, and pop art. His name is synonymous with genius. But perhaps most importantly, Einstein left us with more than formulas. He left us with a way of thinking, curious, humble, bold, and compassionate. He proved that the universe is stranger than we ever imagined, and that asking the right question is sometimes more powerful than having the right answer. He taught us that imagination is more important than knowledge, and then proved it. Albert Einstein didn't just give us new answers, he gave us new ways to ask questions. His life was never about fitting in or following the rules. It was about seeing the invisible, thinking the impossible, and challenging the unchallengeable. He was a boy who questioned a compass, and became a man who questioned time itself. From a misunderstood child to the world's most celebrated scientist, Einstein's journey reminds us that greatness often comes from the fringes, from those who think differently, speak slowly, and challenge what everyone else accepts. He didn't just write equations. He rewrote how we understand light, energy, space, and time. But Einstein was more than his theories. He stood for peace in a time of war, for curiosity in a world of conformity, and for humanity in an age of machines. Even as his ideas became the building blocks of nuclear power and modern technology, he never lost sight of the bigger questions. Who are we? What do we value? Where are we going? His words still echo today. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. As we face a future shaped by science and technology, Einstein's legacy is a compass of its own, a reminder to keep exploring, keep questioning, and never stop wondering. So if this story inspired you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's ever felt out of place for thinking differently. Because the next Einstein might be watching this video right now.